I think it's time the NHL abolishes divisions and moves to a purely conference-based standings format. I'm gonna explain why, but before I do, I'm gonna make the assumption that if you're watching this, you're already familiar with the NHL division format and playoff seeding format. I'm not gonna explain those in this video. So here's my reasoning. As the NHL continues to expand, the schedule gets less and less division-based. Let me explain what I mean by that. I'm going to be using my favorite team, the Leafs, as an example here because I'm the most familiar with their schedule. Before the NHL had 32 teams, the Leafs would play all their friends in the Atlantic Division 4 times, and all the teams in the Metropolitan Division 3 times, totaling 28 and 24 games out of the 82-game season respectively. That's not even that big of a difference to begin with, but under the new format, that difference is even smaller. Now the Leafs don't play all of their division rivals 4 times. Now they play 5 of them 4 times and 2 of them 3 times. In the most recent season, those 2 teams were the Habs and Red Wings. Those numbers add up to 26 games played against teams within their own division. And this format is the same for every team in the league. That's literally a difference of only 2 games. Just 2 more games played against teams within the division than games played against teams in the opposite division in the same conference. So when you look at it like this, it really begs the question, why do we even need divisions? You can't use travel distance as a reason because Tampa and Sunrise are much further from Toronto than, say, Columbus or New York. If anything, travel distance gives us more of a reason to abolish divisions. I can give you an example of what the schedule could look like without divisions. Would anyone complain if the Leafs schedule looked like this? How about this? Or maybe even this? There are so many different combinations of teams that the schedule makers could play around with. It doesn't have to be just Atlantic Division teams that the Leafs play 4 times every year. Now you might be thinking, what about rivalries? Well, as it turns out, 2 teams don't need to be in the same division for there to be a rivalry. Divisions are not a prerequisite for rivalries to exist. The biggest reason I want to abolish divisions is because of the playoffs format. In a conference-only format, we would have the 1 seed playing the 8th seed, the 2 seed playing the 7th seed, the 3 seed playing the 6th seed, and the 4 seed playing the 5 seed. Coincidentally, those are all the first-round matchups we got in the East this year, but that's not the case every year. In a conference-based format, though, whoever won between the 1 and 8 seed would play whoever won between the 4 and 5 seed, so you would expect that the New York Rangers would be playing the Boston Bruins. But that's not what happened. Instead, the New York Rangers faced off against the Carolina Hurricanes in the second round, because they play in the same division. Do you see how that's unfair? These 2 teams finished 1st and 2nd in the Eastern Conference, so both of them should have the opportunity to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. But because they play in the same division, they had to face off against each other in the second round. Meanwhile, either the Panthers or the Bruins, who finished below the Rangers and the Hurricanes, were guaranteed to go to the conference finals.
That doesn't seem fair.
In the NBA, there's always a possibility that the teams that finished 1st and 2nd in the conference can meet in the conference finals. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. One or both of those teams could get upset by a lower-seeded team. But my point is that it's completely unfair to make the 1 and 2 seeded teams face off any time before the conference finals. The NBA has a much better playoffs format than the NHL does. Sure, the league still has divisions, but they play no part in playoff seeding, which I like. The NHL shifting to a conference-based playoffs format would be much more fair, and abolishing divisions would complement that well. The NBA and MLS already do this. It's time for the NHL to join them. But what do you think? Should the NHL get rid of divisions? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.